to the safe space where we learn how to feed and train our dogs better. And today, I am incredibly honored by our guest, Kelly Dunbar. She is known as, I would say, like the puppy goddess or puppy queen.
Oh,
So today is all about puppies. This is a really special opportunity for us to learn from one of the brightest minds, most talented individuals when it comes to dog training. I will have all of the links for their online training courses and other resources linked below. So make sure you check them out. But Kelly, thank you so much for being here today.
oh, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to talk to you. I think we are really aligned in a lot of ways, and probably our paths have been parallel in quite a few ways. So I'm thrilled to be here and answer questions and chat about all things puppy or whatever you throw at me.
Yeah, right. It's going to be an open conversation. And I do have some questions that people kind of submitted generally, but I want to
Uh-huh.
start with some really important foundational topics that I think are going to benefit uh, puppy parents, whether you're planning to get a puppy in a couple weeks or your puppy might be 4, 5, 6 months old. This is going to be of tremendous value. So make sure that you subscribe if you find value and you share this with every pet puppy parent that you know. But let's start off, Kelly. I want to talk about some foundational puppy needs and common issues that puppy parents struggle with. I think the number one issue that I'm getting complaints about, top three at least, is all around puppy biting. And I want to just jump right into puppy mouthing and nipping and biting. And what are some of your thoughts around this? I know it's kind of a complex topic in a way, but I would love to get your thoughts on this.
Yes, that's a perfect start because it really is the number one issue.
Yeah,
When people say they're having a problem with their puppy,
yeah.
my puppy's biting me, and that is a subjective term. Is your puppy biting? Is your puppy mouthing? Is your puppy chewing? And when they are biting, are they biting in play, or are they angry and then snapping at you? There's so many different things that can be happening um, when puppies and teeth. However, the most common thing that a puppy is doing is really just exploring the world and exploring their environment and communicating. And puppies have very sharp teeth that they will lose when they're about 18 to 20 weeks of age. And we have theorized that this is because they have tiny, weak little jaws, and they're so small, but their sharp puppy teeth allow them to receive feedback from their mother, from their litter mates, and from us, um, without them being able to do any damage, right? Because if puppy had no teeth or little rounded baby nubs, and they were mouthing and biting all the time, nobody would say anything. And then they grow up and have these powerful jaws and these strong teeth, and suddenly they're biting, and that same force or that same type of bite would be much more dangerous. So the puppy teeth are to help us give them feedback, and we're their family, right? We know mom would do this. Mom does do this with within litters, when they're nursing and they have no teeth, all is good. But as they grow and they get the puppy teeth, mom starts to tell them, "Oh, you're hurting me," whether they're nursing or whether they're playing, and they get a little feedback there. But it's important to know that this is normal, and that it will dissipate to a degree. Now, I'm not a fan of saying of just oh, they'll grow out of it, because behavior is always in motion and it can go in a lot of different directions. And often, what is normal dog behavior is not necessarily desirable human behavior, or what we would like to see. So while they will kind of grow out of it, depending on the breed type you have and depending on how you handle this, um, it can get worse,
Mhm.
or it might not go away. So normal, it should be addressed, and know that for a little while, wear some long sleeves, wear not your best clothes, and we can work through this incrementally. So first of all, your puppy is mouthing. you know, um, I do ask usually that people tolerate it a little bit. If the puppy's just kind of meh, 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 like chewing on your thumb while you're sitting and petting them, it's probably okay. If it hurts, it's okay to let them know. But what we don't want to do is punish a puppy for just being a puppy. You want to give some feedback that is clear, but that isn't going to startle them or unintentionally make it worse. So I always tell people the first thing to do is to not do this. Out, don't don't jerk around. This is your hands moving is it's something to chase.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun for puppies, right? And not to mention you're going to get more scratched up, right? If their teeth are kind of in you and you're pulling, you're going to get bigger scratches and such. So try to freeze. You have to practice this. It's not always easy. Ouch, and it's okay to squeak or ow even. I'm pretty natural, and I'm not trying to scare them, and I do keep it. You have to temper it to your puppy. Some puppies, ouch, that hurt, is going to be fine. Others, if you squeak too much, they're going to think, oh, I'm making mom squeak. That's fun. It's just if you're squeaking and moving, now you really are a squeaky toy. So I kind of just ouch and stay still initially. That's where I'd start. And most puppies will go, oh, sorry, oh, I didn't mean to, and stop. And then you just re-engage, right? And if you do this repeatedly, they'll realize, oh, it's when I bite too hard. It's not that I'm mouthing, it's when I put pressure on, or it's when I go for the clothing. We do have rules. I'll get to that in a minute as well. But it's okay to do to give them feedback as long as you're not startling them or punishing them. What I don't recommend is grabbing their nose or bopping them on the nose. Again, they're just being puppies. They're being normal puppies. They're not being bad, so we don't want to punish them. And we certainly don't want them to think that our hands coming at them or interacting with us is a bad thing that's dangerous, and create that kind of conflict or adversarial relationship. Hands are can already be a hot topic for puppies, and we can talk about that a little bit later if you want. But if you're reaching in and bopping them on the nose or taking an object and bopping them or holding their mouth shut, they're just learning that your hands are bad. They're doing something normal to them that actually kind of feels good and is necessary. And now they don't understand that why you're grabbing them. So I like to redirect. If they're telling you they need a good chew right now, give them something that is legal, a legal chew. And that will depend on your puppy. Right? It's like you gotta and it shouldn't be your clothing or your hair, anything that you don't want them, because you can't give feedback, right? Your clothing and your hair don't have feeling, and so you don't know how hard they're biting, but also just a bad habit, because this is a toy, and you don't want them to think that your clothing is a toy, and you're going to ruin your clothes too. They're still going to grab your clothes occasionally. So this is why I said don't wear the nice clothes for a while there. But while you're working on this, you can pick a puppy up gently. Often just picking them up, if they're young, they open their mouth. It's kind of like, pick them up, redirect to a chew toy. It can be a rubber toy. It can be a hard toy, like a bone or something, or it could be a chew stick, or even a plush toy. It depends. You're going to have to figure out what your puppy is kind of asking for at that time, and their mouth needs to be busy. No, ouch, that hurt. Here, let's get the toy. Oh, and redirect them, or toss some kibble and or any snack. It doesn't have to be kibble, and just get it so you can reset them without this becoming more confrontational. And then you set them up for success by giving them something to do. And then as they get older, you can tolerate less biting or less pressure. The idea is eventually that they just think humans are really, really delicate. At first they're like, okay, you're a baby, you can kind of chew on me, but okay, now you're not 8 weeks, now you're 16 weeks. No, ouch, no, that hurts. Even if they're just kind of being gentle, and just tell them, I'd rather you chew your toys, never my clothes, never my hair, not my feet, not my jeans, just stick with your toys. And I do often place little toys all over the house, so they're at the ready, especially in the puppy paths, like to the doorway and stuff when they first get up. And then also we have in one of our courses, we recommend these carcass toys. I don't know if they're really called like roadkill toys. sounds
Mhm.
terrible. The flattened toys that don't have
No
any.
stuffing and
Yeah.
yeah,
So you can
yeah, I love
stick
those.
them into your pocket and scrunch them up, and it's a great tug or a toss toy. So that was a
Yeah.
long-winded answer, but
No, I love
um,
it. I feel like you covered obviously, like, the most important parts, and I love that you brought attention to, we obviously we're of the same mindset, a similar mindset where we don't recommend or advocate for striking puppies or punishing them physically or anything like that. But I like that you tied or you linked that keeping hands as positive versus negative is key. And we can talk about that later, but it just initially makes me think about I think the term is cooperative care later on, but like when we're trying to brush
mhm,
our dog's teeth or look in their ears or, groom them. I have dogs that need to be groomed and like having my hands on them, or maybe they're going to the vet and the vet needs to inspect them. If they're used to hands coming at them aggressively or in a scary manner, as you alluded to, that can be really problematic. And as we all know, puppies are so impressionable when they're little. So it's like even a few interactions of you kind of someone maybe smacking them or kind of pushing them around a little bit to
yep,
stop them from biting, one, I think could probably encourage it more because then it's like, oh, we're going to go rough then. Let's go rough back and forth, but
yeah,
could damage the relationship as you spoke to. So I think that's really
yeah.
powerful.
It really does depend on the puppy and in the
Right.
exact scenario. They are learning every day. They're little sponges, and first impressions do matter, whether it's the vet or the groomer or the first
Hmm.
time that you try to trim their nails or wipe
Yeah.
their face or whatever that you're doing to care for them. And some puppies will be very very sensitive and will think that you're just being awful to them. And other puppies, like you said, are just going to take your protests as play. So very little reaction, but a clear, just communicate. I mean, I don't advocate for yelling, but there have been times I've been bitten kind of hard. I'm like, ouch,
Yeah. You
because
don't even realize, like, what the heck was that? I've
wow,
been
did you
there.
do that? Ow, puppy, and they do pick up the nuance of communication, and then just redirect and figure out what you can do to manage the environment or the situation to help them succeed. Because good habits will stick just as well as any habit. We all know habits are hard to break. So that they're used to going to get their special chew toy or their special little crocodile fuzzy or whatever they have, that like whenever they need something in their mouth, just go get your toy or throw the toy. It's really helpful. And as far as the hands go,
Hmm.
it's not just the vets and the groomers. We're primates, right? We're very grabby, stary animal creatures. We are, right, and that is not cool in the dog world. In the canine world, that's rude. It's weird, and thankfully they adapt. They get used to
Tolerate
us, and
it.
they even learn to like it. Well, they tolerate it or learn to like it most of the time, not all the time, but everything we can do to be conscious of that is helpful. So, how many times a day, people, out in the audience, do you touch your dog or pick up your dog without really any warning or clarity around it? Or even if you do, so it's like grabbing the collar because you don't want them to step out of the doorway, grabbing them and walking them to the crate, or picking them up when they're trotting along, little puppies, so cute, trying to be brave and go on this little mission to probably choose something that they shouldn't, and you just aren't even aware of what they're doing. Just scoop up the puppy, oh, it's the puppy,
Hmm.
and imagine just like being lifted out of the air when you're just going about your business by these enormous creatures. I mean, it could be intimidating. At the very least, it could be irritating. I mean, there's like, I like to let puppies know before I'm going to pick them up, and I like to practice all the different handling stuff I'm going to do, and the collar grabs, as
Hmm.
Ian Dunbar, our fearless leader, has said. Well, as the statistics say, collar is the number one place that people are reaching for when they get bitten. The collar grabs cause the most bites, or reaching for the face of the puppy or the dog.
Hmm.
So, being conscious of your handling and getting your puppy accustomed to these things in practice, right? Not just in the situation. So I sit down with the puppies and we do the collar grabs and we hand feed something and we do a little more collar grabs and we scratch. Then we do a little scratching. Then we're going to grab, and just getting the hands to be neutral at worst and at best, yeah, that they learn to love these things. You know, we can do that.
Yeah. And even, and I think that is a really good point in that practicing that behavior. And I think you said the word habits earlier. And those are two things that I think are really important that because the reality is most of us getting new puppies, we have like a really busy life going on. And at first it's really exciting and it's all consuming. And then real life gets into place. And then before we know it, we're 2, 3 weeks into having our puppy and we're still having a lot of issues. And that's when I usually hear from people like, okay, I don't know how to handle all this with a puppy. And I'm like, okay, well, how often are you working with them on this? How often are you tending to their needs? And when we're being honest with ourselves, and I've been guilty of this, oftentimes it's we haven't been practicing enough or working with them enough or
Hmm.
being proactive in managing the environment as you spoke to earlier. So when you talk about practicing with our puppies, whether it's handling with them or practicing these little redirection sessions, like how often throughout the day? Of course, it's going to vary by age and temperament, but
Sure.
what's a good number of times or minutes would you say to practice this kind of activities?
Um, Less is more. People would be surprised. I think people think there have to be these long sessions. It's like, oh, now we're training,
Yeah.
and then if anything, they kind of go into training mode and they're a little more stern and rigid. And and the puppy's like, this is kind of weird and maybe a little boring. You give all this effusive attention and energy, and you're light and happy all day, and they're like, we are going to train now. I'm going to touch your collar and then give you a reward like a robot or something, So
Yeah.
um, training shouldn't look like that, and it shouldn't be a long session. If you want to give a ballpark number, I would say, obviously, depending on the age, for like an 8 to 12 week puppy, you're going to do 30 seconds to 3 minutes, 5 to 10 times a day. I mean, that's that's all you really need to make. If you're consciously focusing on training, that's all you really need at that age. You can do more. You can go up to probably 10 minutes a few times a day, but it's more about kind of weaving the training into their daily life. So
Yeah.
just being conscious that every interaction for your puppy is a learning experience. They don't speak our language. They don't have the same cultural rules and expectations that we do. So they're observing, and
Mhm.
they're like, it's like they've got their little puppy notebooks and they're writing down, oh, when I do this, this is what happens. And oh, I know when that big thing comes here, it means this is going to happen, or whatever it may be. Sound, scent, your behavior, the time of day. They're looking at all of that and they're learning. It's not like they're only learning when they're having their 10-minute training session.
Yeah.
So I try to just integrate training throughout the day. We utilize their daily ration of food. We use some snacks. We use life rewards and play, and just it should be a beautiful interwoven kind of tapestry. It shouldn't be we're training or we're not. So, but babies need a lot of sleep, and they don't have a long attention span. So puppies that are under 12 weeks for sure, maybe even under 14 weeks, keep your sessions short and say, oh, we're gonna do 30 seconds of lying, while the puppy's still waking up, they're kind of sleepy. Let's do some handling while you're sleepy. And as you're waking up, oh, okay, now we're going to go play or something, just
Yeah.
here and there, here and there.
Yeah, and I love your point of kind of having it all interwoven versus I do like to have I call them like little 10-minute pup drills just with
Hmm.
my dogs. I have 3 now. It's a lot. So like I just make sure that even on my busiest days, I'm like, okay, everybody's gonna get just dedicated 10 minutes. You two go on place. You, all right, let's focus. Let's pick 3 things we kind of want to work
Yep.
on and at minimum, right? But one thing I learned through just it happening is the value of rewarding a behavior that a dog's already doing if we want them to continue doing that behavior. And it was such a novel concept to me a while ago, but now it just makes sense. And an example was when Finnegan behind me, my white doodle
Sweetie.
mix,
Yeah.
yeah, when he was little, he kept offering sits. So I just would reward those sits and continue to reward them just with praise or toy or treat or something. And then now that he's 5.5, when he really wants something, he like comes up to me and it's a very intense, but he sits and he just looks at me like I'm sitting, I want something,
Oh, look at
And
me. You're so
yeah,
proud.
yeah. And so that was something that I unintentionally trained in him, I guess, or I guess reinforced would be a better word. So that's another way to think about interlacing or interweaving training throughout our life is just like if your dog is kind of, or your puppy is kind of offering things that you want repeated or that you like, to reward that. Would you agree with that, or could you expand on that a little?
Oh, for sure. I love that you brought this up because it really is. It's a way to utilize life rewards. It's a way to keep conscious of the interactions with your dog,
Mhm.
and also it's kind of a way for it's a way for them to communicate to you what they want. You know what they want and they need. You do learn that when they sit proudly, and they give you a certain wiggle, they're asking for something. It's just become
True.
training becomes a language.
Yeah.
And it oh, I had a point that I don't remember right now. The idea that life rewards as you're doing things and rewarding in the moment is very important. Now, this is what I wanted to say, um, because we humans are really, really good at pointing out the bad. We're good at pointing out the bad, the naughty things. We kind of expect good behavior of whatever our personal standard is,
Yeah.
and we don't just do this to dogs. We do this to each other. We do this
Mhm.
to the service industry. Think about all the times you've gone into a coffee shop. Not maybe not you personally, but because you do a lot of behavior. I bet you don't do this, but can I get a coffee instead of oh I'd like a coffee and
Yeah.
oh just pay rather than thank you. I mean, notice all the good things. We don't often leave good reviews online. We don't often bother to tell somebody wow that was beautiful or thank you or that made my day. It's always the moment, and we do this the closer we are to the person, the more likely we do this to them.
Mhm.
Honestly, you have these expectations and you just think oh the baseline is here. It's all the good stuff. And anytime anyone falls under that, we jump on them. And we do it to our dogs too. Instead of noticing all day, every day, all the things that have gone right, you know. And one of the things you can easily start to notice, just consciously take a moment and think about is what are they not doing right now?
Right.
You know, those puppies that are always biting aren't always biting. You know,
Yeah.
those puppy I mean, I train working Malinois. Even they don't always bite. So, you know,
You definitely know.
there's moments when they're quiet, when they're settled, when they sat looking up at you, especially little puppies. They're short, so they have to crane their heads up. They sit a lot, they're following you. They're, whatever it is. So noticing the good and reinforcing the good that they're already doing throughout the day and saying thank you and taking time to reinforce and connect with them when they're already doing something cool is a great way to like get the most bang for your buck training wise and just
Yeah.
build your relationship as well. So I love
Yeah.
that.
And it's you made me think of this also when you mentioned communication and dog's language with us, kind of going back to wrap up on puppy biting, is my understanding, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is when they're being mouthy with us or biting at us, maybe not all the time, but a lot of time and I think you kind of said this already, but that it's a way to communicate with us. And whether that communication is, hey, I want to play, or hey, my teeth hurt. It's a way they're communicating. So sometimes what's helped me is reframing my perspective and being like, okay, my puppy's being a little intense, jumping at me. They probably need something. Maybe they need a little bit of interaction, like you said,
Yeah.
redirection and playing with them, or maybe a chew to help soothe their gums or whatever it might be. Or one thing I've only learned the past few years is that, like toddlers, puppies can get overtired. You mentioned puppies need sleep, and
Thank
like
you
over,
for
yeah, and
that.
like overstimulated.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I did that with, Marlo, my foster dog. She was a puppy at the time, and, like, I would give her not timeouts, like using a crate to time out, but, like, I would give her sessions and time of, like, "Why don't you go relax?" And it changed everything.
Yeah.
Changed
Take a break.
everything. Yeah.
That is giant. And oh, yeah, you're spot on. Um, a lot of puppy behavior that we don't like, it is normal, but it's also, it's often overstimulation or being overtired, right? So you
Yeah.
think of the kid at the carnival who's had like a cotton
Yeah.
candy and a soda and ice cream
Mhm.
and has been, bombarded with stimulation or, and lights and fun all day. And then they they look a little wild and crazed, right? Their eyes get crazy and they're like maybe running back and forth and doing circles. And what they need is a nap, right? You don't take that little kid and then say, okay, so why don't we go swimming now, or go for a run, or you're like, okay, wow, let's bring it back down.
Yeah.
And often that can, if you don't do that, it will explode into some kind of tantrum, or crying, or
Yeah.
whining, or and it's the same with the puppies. They get overstimulated and over-aroused, and people see that, especially like at the end of the work day, and they're like, oh, my puppy needs more exercise, and they start throwing the ball or playing tug or doing something, and then the puppy is everywhere, and it's like, no, 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 they just need some calm activity or a nap. Puppies under 12 weeks need upwards of 18 hours of chill time a day. That's a lot,
It's a
and
lot.
they don't have to necessarily be asleep, but like chewing, licking something, small
Mhm.
projects, just kind of watching the world go by, and yeah, a lot of sleep too. So um, if your puppy is super wound up, generally they don't need more exercise. They need to rest. That's
I
very
love that.
important. And I mean, we have the number one complaint with biting. I think the number one mistake people make is overstimulating their young puppies.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely been guilty of that, but have learned since. And I think that's really helpful with regard to puppy biting, mouthing, nipping. It's interesting how I hear complaints or concerns of that every single day. So I think that's valuable. Joanne has a question in here, kind of switching topics a little bit. She says it's around potty training, but her comment says, I try to mix play sessions with training. So it doesn't seem like it's all one or the other. And it works really well 4 to 5 times a day, which I think is great. But then she
Yeah.
says, where I fall down is potty training, which I feel it could be a whole separate episode. But what are some of your your hot takes on potty training a younger puppy, like under, I
Well,
don't know, 4 months old?
I mean, really the same, no matter the age. This is even if you bring in a dog from an adult dog from an unknown situation. It's kind of all the similar.
True.
You kind of always go back to it, but definitely baby puppies when you're just starting fresh, you have a big opportunity here. And as I was saying, that the number one mistake people make is overstimulating and under resting their puppies. I was thinking it's kind of actually neck and neck with too much unsupervised freedom and not enough direction around potty places and potty times. Um, we expect them to know where to go. We expect them to tell us way too soon. And we also forget that these are basically infants, toddlers, and young children, equivalent as far as their development physiologically and mentally. So like you've got a puppy who is even a large breed puppy at 8 weeks old, their bladder's like that,
Yeah.
like their little bladder can't hold very much. And their sphincter muscles, all the muscles are not really in control yet. And the brain body connection isn't complete. So they don't know always that they have to go in advance. First of all, they're going to go when they have to go. And the more activity they have, the more their body's going to be moving and they're going to be flowing, just the same way we pee a lot more during the day than we do at night, most of
Mhm.
us, most of the time. Your body kind of slows down, your metabolism slows down, and then in the daytime you might go every hour or every 2 hours. If you're not hydrating, you need to think about that. But at night, you don't have to wake up every hour, hopefully, and go. And it's the same for them. If they're up and moving, they have to go. Puppies are very predictable. They will have to go to the bathroom right when they wake up, and not just first thing in the morning, but every time they wake up, even if it's just a little nap, a little snooze on your lap. They will have to go after they eat, um, and you'll learn your puppy's rhythm. Some it's immediate, almost immediate. Others it's a 5 minute kind of lag time. You'll figure that out. And they also go when they're playing, when they're active. So if your puppy, if you're doing these training sessions, like Joanna is saying, she's doing these activities, that's great. But my guess is the puppy is out for, if she is doing confinement training or any kind of crate training or pen training, the puppy is not in that pen, obviously, when you're training. And I bet the puppy's been out more than 20 minutes when these accidents are happening. And if you're going to have your puppy out and active doing things with you and they're really young or a small breed, you need to get them outside to their proper toilet area about every 10 minutes. Like, better be safe than sorry. It's a lot about predicting when they're going to go and making sure they're already in the right place so that you can build that habit. They do build olfactory and tactile preference for substrates that they want to go potty on.
Mhm.
And so you want to make sure that if you want them to go on grass and you want to be at the other side of the lawn, then they will start targeting that exact area, because puppies will pee repeatedly in the same place. They will not continue to poop in an area that's not clean. They're going to keep moving a little bit, over to, they don't want to be in the poop, but they will keep peeing wherever you put them, and puppies are very predictable, like I just said. So put them in the potty area frequently, quietly wait for that to happen, quietly praise. You can give little cues. I like to teach them to go on cues. So you look for intention behaviors. You become like a little naturalist for a minute there.
Oh,
yeah, right. And you're like, what? Okay, so, or a stalker, a creeper, I don't know. Take it as you will. But you're like, oh, this puppy likes to circle. This one starts sniffing. This one does a zigzag. Like, you have to learn what your puppy's potty intention signals are. And that will also then help you when they are about to go in the house. You can say, oh, they're doing that thing. Another big cue is if you're in the house with your puppy and it's a young puppy and they leave. If you're interacting with them or they're hanging out with you and they leave the room, there ain't no reason a puppy should be leaving the room and they want to be near you, right? So they're looking for a private space, not in their living area, to go off and be discreet. It's not about knowing better. It's not about, trying to be sneaky. It's about, oh, I live, play, and eat right here. And so I'm going to move to the edge or move out of the way so I can find an elimination area. And so if your puppy's walking away from you, they probably have to go, or they're going to go get into mischief, and you should be, watching them anyway. So,
or use baby gates, little,
yeah,
those child poop, just
confine,
to
like,
confine and manage the environment. I love that you said, like, every 20 minutes or so, because I, when people ask me about potty training, I, uh, I'm like, at minimum, if your puppy's still having accidents inside, if you're not taking them out to the designated potty area at least every hour, at least, then you're not going enough. And if you're not taking them out enough, and people are like, "Oh, you're crazy. What about I have a job. I need," because I tell people, I'm like, if you're still having accidents, I like with my mom, she got a puppy this 2 years ago. And I swear within a week, he was 8 weeks old. Within a week, I wouldn't say he was like 100% potty trained, but within a week, and I didn't sleep for that week, he was pretty much like barely had accidents, because like we were just it was like every 20, 30 minutes, day and night. It was like,
it's
go
worth
outside,
it, right?
go
You're
outside. It was
investing
so
this
worth it.
time up front,
Mhm.
and then you get more freedom. Now,
Yes.
a young puppy is still going to make mistakes or not be able
Yes.
to hold it long enough. If you're
Yeah.
still going to have to manage for a while, but it is worth it. And and if
Yeah.
they're, and again, remember, they should be sleeping a lot. So we do recommend a chunk of sleep and then
Yes,
frequent
for
potty
sure.
breaks. Um, if and someone is asking about if they are making a mistake, what do you do,
Oh,
right? So
yeah.
I do want to get to that. So if your puppy is showing intention behaviors, and hasn't gone yet, if they do get the zoomies or they do the circling or they're sniffing or wandering, I would say, oh, let's go outside. And depending on
Mhm.
how much faith you have in them, you might pick them up quickly. And occasionally that becomes a problem, but
Mhm.
mostly they're going to kind of tighten up in the little sphincters that they have while they get picked up and go outside. So you can take them to the right area. If they've already started, um, you don't want to, again, you don't want to punish or you don't want to overly startle them, but I might interrupt if I can do
Yeah.
so in a way, depending on the puppy and their attitude, or just quietly pick up and try to get them to
Mhm.
finish outside. But if that happens, if it's only happening once a week, it's on you and it's not a big deal as long as you can get them out more frequently. It means you're probably not watching enough or haven't seen the intention behavior
Right.
most of the time. But it's okay to do a slight interruption, or if it's just that one time, you're like, okay, let him finish. Like, oh, like sometimes you're like, okay, this is our, oh, what's happening? Oh, we're just
Yeah.
gonna let's let that finish, and then we're gonna clean up quietly, and then we're gonna be more careful next time, because what you don't want to do when if you start punishing a puppy, if you see them go and you punish them by startling them too much or doing anything aversive or scary to them, they just kind of, a lot of times they don't, going potty, relieving yourself when you have to pee, for instance, is inherently rewarding. You know, you've been holding it, and you finally get to go. You're already, and you have to. Like, there's a point when you can't hold it anyway. So this is normal behavior that is reinforcing. So they're not going to make the connection that going to the bathroom is wrong. They're going to think going in front of you is wrong, and then you will get a dog that actually starts to have a shy bladder or doesn't want to go in front of you or won't go on leash, and you're having more of a problem now getting them to go outside because they're waiting for you to go away because they think you're weird or you got toilet issues, you know, and then you do have a different problem. That's a lot harder to resolve. So, you know, chalk it up, tighten up your program, and don't make too big of a deal of it. And then do reinforce your puppy when they do go. You can put this on cue. You see the intention behaviors, and I'd say, oh, you know, I mean, use whatever word you want. You know, one guy I saw outside of a pub, big strapping guy with a big dog, and he's out there going, "Be busy, be busy." You can say what you want.
I had I don't know where. Actually, it was through believe it or not, it was a corgi rescue group, and she had this puppies come in, and her terms, I've used them since, it was like 8 years ago, for going number one, she would say, "Tap your kidney." And I don't know like where that came from, but that's what I use now. Like, tap your kidney. People think I'm so weird. And then for number two is hurry, hurry. Hurry,
Yep.
hurry. And that, have you heard that? I don't know. I have never heard anybody else use those, but those are the cues that
I've never heard
I
tap
use.
your kidney.
Yeah, it's so random. And then
fresh. Yeah.
then what I learned is it's best to do it like as they're completing, because if you do it too early or you reward them too early, sometimes they can stop them and interrupt them. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Yes. So I mean, there are nuances, and there's also if they've already started to go out in. So if you reward them too early, yes, you're interrupting. So I just quietly watch, quietly praise. So you know, be busy. That's not what I say, but now I'm going to say it. Be busy as you're getting the intention behaviors, just so that this can become a pre-cue. Because they do have feelings, right? They have these feelings that are happening right before they go. And then as they start to go, quiet for a second. Good dog, very good. Oh, good puppy.
Yeah.
Just very quietly. You don't go, yay! You know, and you don't.
Here's some toys and treats and candy.
Yeah, you don't like do confetti treats. No, wait till they're finished. But you can give that little, you know, that kind of, you know, keep going, soothing. You know, keep good dog, because they're hearing that all the time. Good puppy, yay! And then when they're done, yay! Come over here, food, play. Now some more sweet freedom. If you go out and they don't go, either because they just don't have to, because you are doing this frequently, or because sometimes if you interrupt what was just about to happen, sometimes they really do suck it all back up, and they're like now distracted and confused or a little inhibited, and they're like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna go outside and I don't have to go anymore, even if they do. I like to time this. I do not go outside forever and just stand there, because that's not helping them make any association either, right? You want to make potty a priority outside. So this is going back to, you know, what you were saying, Rachel, about like you spent your whole first week doing this, right? Like all I did was not sleeping,
literally,
going a lot of potty breaks. Yeah, it kind of looks like that the first few weeks, week or two, really, usually at most. But you know, if they don't go, I give them 3 minutes, and then we don't continue on playing and doing other things. Most of the time, nothing is written in stone, but you know, you have your baseline. I will go back inside and either tether them, you know, keep them with me on a leash, or put them in their crate or pen if I think that they can be reliable in there, and I'm going to time it. I'm like, if they really think they have to go, we might try 5 or 10 minutes later. If I think it might be a false alarm, I might put them back to sleep, or put them with the chew, or keep puppy next to me on a little cot bed and with the chew, where again there's a leash or something, so I can notice, so I can start, you know, maybe doing something else. But then if the leash gets taut or they get up, I notice, and then you take another opportunity. But there's no sweet freedom and relaxation for either of you until it's over. And this, I don't mean that in a grueling, punishing way, you know, to them. It's just like, you got to pay up. You got to put
Yeah.
out before you get out, and get some freedom. So,
Yeah.
when I
Yeah,
know that
I
you're
tell I
empty.
tell people that, because I get a lot of, even when I'm like at least every hour, a lot of times even more frequent when they're smaller, and I don't have the time or the energy. And what I tell people is that you could still potty train without doing it as consistently. It's just going to take longer. And I think it's kind of like you said, do the work up front if you can. And like using friends and neighbors to help while you're at work, or, a dog sitter that you really, really trust and know personally to come help let the puppy out. I get we all have different life situations. But doing, I think, the best that we can is just going to set them up for success. And then one other thing that I learned, I actually had learned this a long time ago, but then when my mom got her puppy, and I realized I was wrong earlier. It's not 2 years. He's now almost 3 years old, which is crazy. He's now getting this old. But it was weird because he would go potty outside and then come in a few minutes, go again. And I was like,
Hmm.
what? And then I realized, oh, I forget. Sometimes they don't empty their bladder all the way. So some people, well, now I hear it all the time, like, oh, my puppy went outside, and then 2 minutes later, when they come inside, they go potty. And my understanding with that is sometimes they just don't empty their bladder all the way. Have you experienced that as well?
Yes, and I've even had double poopers in the morning, so you have to kind of get to
Oh.
know your own puppies, and adolescent dogs will do this a lot too, because you think, okay, we're empty, that was a nice poop, then you go back in and they're like, oh no, round two. I mean, so there's nothing ever written in stone. You watch, and if it's a one-time thing, well, maybe it was just an accident or a freak thing, but sometimes they need to go twice. And in that case, I might do some play training outside afterwards. I'll reward them, if I think there's more in there, or they have this habit of doing this, twice in a row. I wait for the second one. Either I don't engage that much, or I'll engage a little bit and then give them another potty cue. And I like having, this is another reason to have a potty area that is set up, whether you have an X pen in a separate area, so you don't even have to go in. So there's not a lot of fun happening. I mean, there's birds, there's leaves, floating by and things like that. But this is not a toy pen. This is not a playpen. This is a
Mhm.
potty area. And if you can cordon that off somehow without a leash, that's a really good way to do it. If you do have to walk on leash or prefer to do leash stuff, which you should practice anyway at some point, because otherwise they don't learn to go on leash. That's a whole
Mhm.
nother thing. But I stand kind of in one spot, or I have like a 3 to 5 foot area that I might just walk back and forth. And this is the one time I'll tell you that you can kind of tune out. Like, you can, check your phone, but pay attention. You always have to have one eye in there, or making sure that you're watching for intention signals so you can be ready, or just kind of stand neutrally and kind of back and forth and wait. And if you get nothing in those 3 minutes, then it's back in for some more management for a little while. And if you get something, it's a reward. And if you think there's more, well, then maybe you release them to the play area for a while and do a few seconds of training, because all that jiggling and eating and running and playing is going to stimulate them to go again. Or you just leave them in the pen for a few more minutes and watch quietly and wait for round two. Depends, because round two can be 30 seconds later or 5 minutes later. So you do have to become, you do have to work on your powers of observation. And it's good to have notes or little notebook or app or something that you use just to kind of get a feel for your puppy. But you will get a feel if you're paying attention. Too many people just put the puppy out in the backyard and don't even know whether they went or not, you know?
Yeah.
And a puppy, especially this happens with when they're a little older, less
Mhm.
so with babies, because most people will take them out, but not everybody. And also, if they're just a little bit older and they're out there on their own, like, but they're still like puppies, like, they are looking at the butterflies and the fly and chewing on a stick, and it doesn't necessarily occur to them, and then you think they've gone potty because they've been out there for 10,
Mhm.
15 minutes, and they have not gone inside, and now they go back into the boring house, relatively speaking. There's not all the outside stimulus, and they have to go, so they come in and go. So it's really important to be present, you know.
I think that's
um
a good one. I like that, being present. And one thing I've learned through trial and error is that, what we allow our dogs. I always joke, I'm like, hey, if your dog has an accident in a house, it's not their fault, it's your fault. And it's not that you're bad or negligent. It just means, oops, move on. And so anytime my dogs make a mistake, it's really just because I wasn't present enough or missed
yep.
something. And it's not a bad thing. I just need to learn from that. And what I've learned is the more we allow a behavior to repeat, maybe that behavior is going potty inside. And by allowing it, I mean, it just happens, then they're more likely to repeat that. So then it
Yeah.
becomes, as you said before, a habit, but not a habit that we want. So I like that you talk about being present and aware.
Yeah, and this is why another reason that like letting them have a playpen or a crate or
Hmm.
somewhere safe that they can play and chew and chill, that is where they're safe, so that you don't have to always be 100% present is really
Yeah.
important because you can't. I mean, everybody has their own style, and some people will have their dog more loose, but they can really kind of tune in, or they've been a mom for
Hmm.
15 years, and they've got all these extra spidey senses, or this is
Yeah.
their 12th puppy. But you need to, when you're physically present and mentally absent, it is not a time for you to do anything with your puppy. They need
Yeah.
to be safely secured, or um, in an environment where they aren't going to make mistakes, whether it's chewing mistake or a potty mistake or something that could be dangerous to them or to your furniture. So, I am an advocate for, like you said, cordoning off a small room, or
Hmm.
having an X pen or two and putting them together in different rooms. Sometimes I'll have more than one, so that everywhere I go, there's a place where the puppy can be plopped into for a minute with some nice toys and a bed, or a crate in there as well sometimes, or even just the crate, so that they are getting used to being a little bit independent, not always right next to you. And so they learn to focus on their chew toys, and they are more likely to learn to hold it. So presence is important, but you are allowed breaks. And remember, they do have to sleep a lot, and that is when you get to zone out, or check your phone, or do your real work, or whatever else you need to do, take a nap. you
Yeah.
know
This is yeah, this is giving me puppy fever again. It's so funny. People hear this and they're overwhelmed, and I'm like, ooh, I'm like ready. But no, I have a full house. It's a lot. This has been fantastic. We are, oh gosh, we're basically at time. One thing we didn't get to talk a lot about that's really important to, I know, both of us, is fostering rescue dogs and things. So um
Yeah.
let me ask you this. Can you give me a high level, is somebody who is thinking, is kind of different topic, but I think it's important even on the puppy subject, because a lot of people watching this will be thinking about getting a puppy. And I always advocate, before you bring home a new dog or another dog, if you can foster a rescue dog, or foster a dog from a shelter, um, I highly encourage it, because I think first it gives you a taste of what you might expect. And even if the foster dog is 5 years old, it's likely going to be very similar to a puppy in terms of how you need to manage that situation. I guess could just give a very high level viewpoint of the importance of fostering, and how maybe it's kind of impacted your life positively?
Hmm. Yes, I am a huge advocate of fostering,
Love it.
for multiple reasons, and I'm a long time fosterer. I don't I've never counted. I've had a lot over the past 30 years of being in dogs, and I just adopted my last foster dog this week. My most recent one. I mean,
Congratulations.
I
Yeah.
adopted her.
Yeah.
so
Yeah. No, that
um,
congratulations. That's exciting.
uh, which doesn't happen very often with me, but it's happened. No, actually, only twice now in 30 years, so that's not so bad. Um, but the dogs, and even the best shelter where there's a behavior program, and they've got you know, fancy kennels and runs. A shelter is always going to be more stressful for the animals, and
Yeah.
also just less, um, well, not to get less home-like, right?
Yes.
It's not mimicking what their life is going to be like outside of the shelter very well, even when they try. And I've developed a shelter program, and I know what to try. And it doesn't matter. You do your best in a shelter, but
Mhm.
they need to be in home environments. It's a great way to do an ongoing temperament evaluation, while
Yeah.
also teaching them things that they need to be successful, to both get adopted and stay adopted. It takes the pressure off the shelter for the animals that really, really need to be there. It's a great way to test the waters, because you're right, Rachel. I mean, even a dog that is 5 years old and maybe has great manners, like when they first come to your house, you have to acclimate them to your home and teach them the rules. And maybe you don't know where you want that doggy potty, but you're going to figure it out when that Great Dane Foster is pooping right on your patio. Like,
Goodness.
oh, not there. So you start developing these things, and you're helping the shelter, you're helping your community you're learning your chops. Like, I mean, this is a great way to get hands-on experience as either a potential dog owner in the future or as a trainer. It's a great way to get, kind of up your chops and get to meet lots of different personalities. It also
Mhm.
helps you decide what kind of dog owner you are. Like,
Mm.
do you like these big dogs? Would you rather have a terrier? I never really thought I wanted a terrier. That's why I fostered one. Oh, but look how much I love this terrier. You don't know, and often people will foster the dogs they think they're least likely to fall for. I mean, it's smart. If you know that you love teddy bear, doodles, then maybe foster a Boston Terrier instead. I don't know, but
Yeah.
you still might fall in love and might learn
Well,
something.
that's what happened to me. I always thought I was a boy dog mom. I always fostered or always have boy dogs. I just thought, and they were like, "Hey, we have this girl, female, whatever," and I was like, "Ah, all right, whatever." Done. Stole my heart. She's my first foster fail. So just like you,
Yeah,
and I just recently adopted her legally, I guess. So that's it. Yeah. So we're both kind
yeah,
of similar
legally.
in
I
that
know it's
sense.
been
Yeah.
months. Like
Yeah.
for
She's
a
been here
long
for a
time.
while, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
no, I love that you share that. I know it was a little off topic, but anytime I connect with somebody who has similar thoughts on fostering, I like to have them share their bit of voice. And this could be a whole nother video we could talk about fostering and like because there's a lot of concerns people have and worries about having to say goodbye or how to even like what to look for. Because I've had really great experiences with different foster groups or rescue groups, and I've had some kind of questionable
yeah,
ones. And
yeah.
so I
Hmm.
think that that's important. It could be fun to talk about in the future. So anybody
Absolutely.
watching, if you have additional questions about puppies or fostering or both, leave them in the comments below. But thank you so much for being on here today with me. It is an honor. You are a true legend in the dog training community. So I'm just really thrilled to have had you here and to share your expertise.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing me with your audience, and you are so cool to chat. I mean, we could, you and I think could chat for hours and go out to
Yeah.
dinner. So next time I'm in California, I'm gonna look you up.
Heck yeah. Oh, for sure. That would make my whole day. I'd be so honored to do that. So
We should train
very
together.
cool.
It'd be fun. Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. That would be so cool. I would be so down. Or I'll come up to wherever you are. I love like traveling with the dogs. So,
yeah. All right.
so with
Thank you.
yeah, so with that, I'll end the live here. Thank you everyone for watching. Please don't forget to click that subscribe button, share with your